they started to basically talk, touch, and interact with the unconscious patient and give that patient the feeling, you're not alone here. We take care, we communicate with you. And what came out of that is nothing short of a miracle.
Rain Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Supernova. Hi, I'm Nova Lorraine, your host and founder of Rain Magazine. And as you know, Rain Magazine is on a mission to inspire millions worldwide. We are excited to bring you another episode where we interview the gutsiest founders and rainmakers from around the globe in fashion, culture, and technology. Sit back and learn tips, hacks, and words of wisdom where you can unleash your superpowers. Today, I'm excited to introduce you again to Dr. Brillinger. He was with us a few episodes ago discussing how attention changes everything. We invited him back due to the popularity of that episode to share some more quantum science secrets. Welcome back, Dr. Brillinger.
Well, thank you, Nova, for having me back. I'm very excited for another great show. So let's get started.
Yes, awesome. And for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to listen to the Attention Changes Everything episode, Dr. Brillinger started his entrepreneurial pursuits in the area of real estate and construction, and then moved on to follow his passions to study Vedic science and quantum science for many years. And we are always interested in finding hidden secrets and unknown tips and how we can be more creative and productive as entrepreneurs. And so today we're going to focus on health. And we are in a time now where there's new viruses popping up all over. People that I know are getting pneumonia more frequently, which didn't really happen a lot when I was growing up. And then we have issues as it relates to our mental health, not just our physical health. And so I want to really focus more in on our physical health, Dr. Brillinger, and some of the things that you can share with us from a quantum science perspective. Yeah, so why don't you go for it? Share something with us that we can apply.
Yeah, look, I think the topic couldn't be more fitting right now, because obviously everybody is following what's going on in China, and there's very little actual information what's going on. We don't know what's true and what's not true. And if you look at health from a quantum perspective, and there we're already at the first step to look at what is going on, right? I mean, most of us have so hectic and busy lives that they hardly ever have time to look at how am I actually, how am I really feeling, what's going on, and to really take time out of the busy schedule and see what state we are in. And unless something starts hurting or not working, or, and then mostly we are already moved away from health into what could be called sicknesses. So once we are there, of course, we have to then use all kinds of tricks and medicines and ways to go back. But in a way, the perfect way is to prevent even going there. And that's where quantum physics has many advices.
Well, I'm really excited to hear more about prevention. I completely believe in that philosophy. We know that food is a big part of keeping our immune system strong, learning about different herbs and supplements that can also add to that. What are some areas that we can add to what we're already doing to prevent from getting sick to begin with?
Well, let me share you a story. In the late 70s, Russia did a lot of experiments with viruses and bacteria. And they wanted to know, why does somebody get sick and others don't? And obviously, they checked like the obvious things, like how fit are you? How's your heart rate? Do you work out? What do you eat? And they understood there's some, of course, correlation. I mean, if you don't eat good all the time, but it's probably not good. And we all know that. it was still not completely conclusive. And so they did a test where they exposed people to, of course, non-deadly viruses and bacteria, and then went a little bit more in the psyche of the people. And what they found out was amazing, because whoever in that control group who said, well, in the moment I'm in love, did not get sick even once. So just be in love all the time. And this is a perfect prevention.
Oh, that's funny. So you're saying this was an experiment that was done in Russia?
Yes.
Okay. And they took a group of people and they exposed them to a non-deadly virus and then tested those that attracted the virus and those that didn't, or those that had caught the virus and those that didn't?
Yeah, basically it was those people who later on revealed that they're in the moment, freshly in love or just freshly engaged in a very, we would call it in an emotional high.
Mm-hmm.
None of them ever got sick.
Wow.
Like none.
That is so amazing. So those that reported that they were in love, right? As you said, it had this emotional high from a recent engagement or relationship or marriage, whatever that was, those individuals stayed healthy.
Exactly. I mean, the point of that experiment was to find out what is like the ultimate prevention from getting sick. And
Wow.
interesting wise, what came out was that emotional high of being in love, of being in this loving situation, that was the reason that actually made people absolutely immune.
Unbelievable. Okay. I could see that though, for sure. The question is for those listeners that aren't madly in love right now, how can they achieve that same resistance to different viruses or colds or illnesses? I mean, I think that's pretty incredible. And I could see why, if you're on cloud nine, and I'm sure a lot of us can attest to what that experience is like. But for those that are not in that at the moment, what can they do or how can they bring in that emotional high into their daily life?
Well, if you believe Rumi, who was a Sufi master, I mean, he has a saying that, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, be in love. And the idea, what he meant behind that is that, look, when we are in love, there are certain parts of our brain very, very active.
Mm.
And that has been measured even with modern science that, some couples fall in love and fall out of love. And then often maybe also the relationship ends. But then there's these couples who say, what's the secret of your marriage? And they're like 25 years married. And they say, well, we're just madly in love. And then they measure their brains. And funny wise, that activity that you have at the beginning when you fall in love just stayed in the same kind of active mode. And it just never stops. So in a way, we can condition ourselves to be in that emotional high. And wouldn't that be awesome to be always in love, always happy, always excited?
Oh yeah. Hello. and I'm thinking that, that emotional high, that in love feeling is not just limited to our intimate or romantic relationships. I mean, you can be in love with your hobby, your whatever you're doing athletically, or a new job, or a new trip that's coming up. I mean, you literally could find something, anything to be quote unquote in love with, right? Just to keep that emotion going, to create that loop.
I think that's the point. In a way, being in love with work, being in love with what you do, being in love with the people that surround you, just having that excitement every day, this complete renewal. This is one of the basic also understanding of quantum physics, that we look at everything again like with the eyes of childhood, with big glances and oh my God, I mean,
Yeah.
that of course also creates very, very different energy in your body. And basically your immune system works perfect. You're healthy, you feel good, everything works out in a positive way. And it's really not necessarily only what you think, it's how you look at everything.
So looking at it with the wonderment of a child to keep that emotion really high and the energy that you need to keep a strong immune system. Okay, I can absolutely see that being doable. So when we think back to our childhood and the moments that really stick with us, I liked playing outside. I have 4 brothers, so I was definitely a little tomboy growing up, and just finding different things, hunting around the yard or building forts, and meeting a new friend in the neighborhood. Those things, created that same sort of high, like, whoa, this is so cool. Or playing hide and seek or whatever it was. And so either finding an activity or a project or something to look forward to conjure that feeling, or trying to go back in time to a place, a moment, a story where you had that sense of wonderment and that excitement and a feeling that you could sort of equate for being in love, being in love with this new discovery, whatever it is. So that's pretty cool. And that doesn't involve any supplements. So
Exactly.
one of the things I want to bring up was a statement that my oldest son one day had shared with me. He came home from school and he said, "Mommy, do you know that everyone needs 12 hugs a day to grow?" And this was years ago that he said this, and it has stuck with me since. And let me tell you, my kids use that, okay? When they're, "Mommy, I need a hug. Remember, we need 12 hugs a day." And there's science and research behind how hugs, the simple form of touching someone, will reduce the hormones that produce stress or anxiety. Talk to me a little bit about that. I thought that was really interesting as well.
I totally believe in that. There's actually one story that comes to mind immediately. I'm a friend of a person that others would call a guru in India, and her name is Amma. And maybe you have heard of her. She basically goes around and hugs people. And literally, opposite to other gurus, she doesn't have like a distinct philosophy, or she doesn't, like tape, complicated speeches. All she does is going around and give people long, genuine hugs. And
Mm.
I learned to know her, oh my God, this is almost 20 years ago. And back then I lived in Kerala, and back then it was quite easy, to know about each other, because back then, being a foreigner in that part of the world, you were, almost like a very exotic person. So I got invited to different places and met different people that maybe is difficult to meet today. And I've seen her hug people, and so many adults would just cry from just getting a single hug. And I think
Wow.
we all need that. I mean, think about when you were a child and you fell down and you hurt your knees. And what do you want? You don't want a doctor. You want your mom, and you want a big hug and
Yes.
know everything is good. And funny wise, everything is good then.
Yes, that's so true. I don't think that ever goes away. I think that whenever we're feeling down or, lost or disappointed, or gone through some sort of failure, a hug does wonders. And to know that it could actually help you grow, like physically grow, and keep your immune system strong, keep your heart healthy, things that we take for granted. I'm a hugger. So when I say hello or bye to someone, I automatically go for the hug, but not everyone is, and I get that. I love that exchange, and to know that it's also, providing that sort of health benefit to whoever's getting the hug is definitely a benefit. So I thought that was pretty cool. And like I said, my kids definitely use it often to remind me when they're much bigger now. So it's their excuse to come in for the hug. That I thought was pretty cool. So what other quantum science secrets do you have up your sleeves that you want to share with us to help keep
Yeah.
us healthy?
Well, I love the hug story. This is really wonderful. And it brings me to another idea that there's a German Austrian doctor. His name is Rüdiger Dahlke. And
I'm sorry, say his name again.
Rüdiger Dahlke. I'm sorry, I'm speaking that very German.
No, that's okay.
So he basically wrote different books. And in one book, he discusses that, because you mentioned that before, that people have more pneumonia. And he
Mm.
kind of found out, or not only he, that, especially children who are neglected have pneumonia. And then he thought, that's interesting. So he researched a little bit more, and then he found out that, funny wise, people who are in intensive care have a lot of pneumonia, who are
Mm.
unconscious and lying there. So then they started to think, okay, how can it be? Because in intensive care, everything is sterile, everything is super clean. That
Right.
should not be an area where you get easily pneumonia. And they
Hmm.
checked the rooms, and they also could not find like a lot of bacteria. So then they thought, okay, if neglect is leading to that kind of a disease, what can we do? So guess what they started? They started to basically talk, touch, and interact with the unconscious patient, and kind of, give that patient the feeling you're not alone here. We take care. We communicate with you. And I mean, what came out of that is nothing short of a miracle.
Mm.
The case of pneumonia on those stations who do that went back by almost 90%.
Wow. Where was this based?
This was done in Germany,
This was
in,
in
uh,
Germany. Oh, that's right.
in
Okay.
different hospitals. So,
Uh-huh.
in order to verify the theory, because you can't just do it only in one place. And what then they did further in the study is that they found out, look, we all have bacteria in our lung all the time,
Okay.
even if we are healthy. But we keep them, so to say, in check. Our immune system can control it. It's even good to have certain bacteria because
Right.
sometimes we also use these bacteria to fight other bacteria. And the
That's true.
immune system is like a genius kind of master who keeps everything in check and balance. So the question is just, when does the imbalance happen? And it seems that touch, love, happiness, all these like emotional things we need are so important to stay healthy. More important than anything else.
Wow. And so these patients that were in these ICU units that were unconscious was getting a high rate of pneumonia in a quote unquote sterile environment, which led to these experiments, which they found that by interacting with touch and attention and love, that the incidence of pneumonia went down by 90%.
Imagine that.
Fascinating. Fascinating. And I wonder how many hospitals here in our country actually have a program that's similar. I'm fascinated, so I'm going to have to just do some research on my own. And how can we apply that to our daily lives as creatives and entrepreneurs?
Well, look, especially as entrepreneurs, we tend to really run here, run there, sacrifice time for growing our company, growing our business. And I think that's fine, of course. In a way, this is the art of the deal, so to say. But I think
Mm-hmm.
we need to really not forget, these little things in between. Like when you close a deal, why not give everybody a hug? Why not
Right.
have that as a company culture? Or if you
Mm.
don't want to hug a person because you feel the person maybe not, give a pat on the shoulder, Have some human emotions in everything and make people feel good, surprise people, How often did your boss come into the company and made a surprise in the morning and gave everybody a donut or everybody a free coffee or, just
Mm.
be spontaneous, be new every moment. Do you not?
Mm.
Because I think what really kills us most is being gray, is repeating and repetition.
Oh, interesting.
And from a perspective of quantum mechanics, there's nothing more basically diffracting, there's nothing more separating us from reality than repetition.
Wow.
Because repetition is never new, it's always the same. And let's be
Mm-hmm.
also honest, we are normally bored with repetition. I mean, a few good things can repeat, but even if they're all the time the same, we don't
Yeah,
feel them as good anymore. It's like, even if you have a perfect restaurant, you won't eat the same dish every day there. You don't want that.
that's true.
You want a new restaurant, a new dish, a different experience. This is a little bit maybe the biggest problem on our time, that corporate thinks in repetition, in standards, instead of in moments and renewal.
Yeah, and I think that ties back to the point you made about looking at things, through the perspective of a child's eye or with wonderment that a child has. And it's hard to keep, the feeling of wonderment with it's something that you've seen and done over and over and over again. And I liked how you brought up the fact about being spontaneous as a leader, as a boss, or even as an employee or, as a team member. Because if you took the time out of your day, your, schedule, and decided to purchase something or make something and then share it, that shows love, right? When we were going back to the feeling of love. And then also for the person that's doing it, it's breaking the repetition of whatever that schedule is. And that spontaneity, both from the receiver and the giver, is bringing in that feeling of wonderment. So it's like bringing all three things together to create this really healthy environment. And I love really how you brought up the fact about as entrepreneurs and even creatives, if you're a designer or a writer, painter, whatever you're doing in the creative space, you get so absorbed into the task, the project, the business plan, the goal, the sale. And you do sometimes become neglectful of yourself or those that are around you because you're so focused in on that thing and achieving that goal or finishing the project or the painting. And then slowly but surely it takes its toll on your health in different ways. And that shows up in different ways. And so for us, maybe to place on our calendar a moment of, self-love, whatever that is. I'm going to go get my nails done, or I'm going to go get a massage, or I'm going to take a few minutes and read my favorite book, or I'm going to do something spontaneous today. Like literally putting it on our calendar, be spontaneous, do something different today, or treat yourself or treat someone else, and maybe by even putting an alarm on our phone, something that simple to remind us, to break us out of the habit that we've already created, can be powerful and impactful as it relates to staying healthy, keeping a strong immune system, keeping a really positive attitude. And so, yeah, really, really insightful information and great advice. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. I think maybe this is a key, if you link this with creativity, and
Mm-hmm.
creativity has to be spontaneous,
It's true.
and it can't be the same because then it's no longer creative. Maybe this is something I think companies have to actually celebrate, like this spontaneous eruption of an event that's not planned like 3 weeks ahead, it's in a way like kids are. Okay, let's play that game. And everybody's involved and everybody is happy and everybody's running and everybody's like, oh, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be the cowboy. Okay, I'm going to be the sheriff. And, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever the game is, everybody involves within seconds. And I think as adults, we feel sometimes we can't do that. But I think we need that because let's also be honest, we all have children deep inside. Our inner child is never gone. And I
That's
think
so
in
true.
the end, that's what we're doing. We're giving it attention. And the
Okay.
moment we give attention to our inner child, we start to love ourselves. We can share, we can prosper, and we can definitely grow.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Bringing it back to the inner child sort of sums it all up. And when you were talking about the game, I was flashing back to
Mhm.
games with my brothers growing up. So, so much fun. Especially the ones who are like, hey, like you said, hey, let's do this. Let's play Monopoly. Let's, go outside and play, tag. And all right, let's do it. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, tapping into the inner child and giving it that attention, giving it something to find wonder about or something to love consistently. And it doesn't have to be the same thing or the same person, but, paying attention to those little things, like you said. And even if it means scheduling it in your calendar, but really sort of breaking that monotony and giving focus to non-medicinal solutions that can keep you healthy. Well, thank you again so much. I took away something, and I love the story about Amma with the hugs. And not only is she helping people around the world just feel better, she, is impacting others to want to donate and give to her so she can continue to give to others. So, something that simple and profound I thought was really interesting as well. And all the research, you gave me more homework because some of these things I want to sort of dig and dive a little deeper in after our call. So it's always a pleasure having you, Dr. Brillinger. And for our listeners out there, if you have any questions about anything that we talked about today, or ideas or suggestions that you would like us to look a little further into, please send us an email at nl@rainmagazine.com. And if you want Dr. Brillinger to come back, like you did this time, we could do that too. So again, give us a shout out, send us an email, nl@rainmagazine.com. Dr. Brillinger, any last words?
Well, a little birdie just told me the other day that the Attention podcast is actually nominated for a film festival in LA. So I just have to share that with everybody. So this is a big thank you to our listeners. It's amazing. Thanks for the support, and I'm honored to be part of it.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Dr. Brillinger, for bringing that up. The Attention Changes Everything podcast was recently nominated for an award at the New Media Film Festival that's taken place in early June. So we are officially in their early lineup. So go to newmediafilmfestival.com and get your tickets, walk the red carpet, be our cheer squad in the audience. We definitely want the Unleash Your Supernova podcast to walk away with that award. And again, I'm so grateful, honored, and blessed to have Dr. Brillinger be a part of that journey with me with his episode, Attention Changes Everything. So yes, thank you listeners so much for your support, which has helped us with the nomination. And I want to thank you again for joining us today for another episode of Unleash Your Supernova, where we are here to bridge the gap between creativity and entrepreneurship. So you make sure to tune in to the next show, and we release a new episode every 2 weeks, and we don't want you to miss it. So again, thank you, Dr. Brillinger, and until next time.
Bye. Hug away and be happy.